The world has just witnessed, arguably, one of the greatest executions of a basic business strategy, and it came from the most valuable company of the 21st century, Apple. August 2018, I stumbled upon an article published by the BBC, and on the title it said, "Apple is the first public company worth $1 trillion." I thought to myself and asked, what makes them so special? I asked, why not Nokia? Why not Samsung? And the answers I found left me in awe. What makes this so fascinating isn't the technology or even the innovation. It's how Apple took a strategy so simple, so obvious, that most businesses ignore it and turned it into a trillion-dollar advantage. In this video, we'll be breaking down Apple's hidden strategy, how they executed it so precisely and undetected, and how this strategy changed not just the company, but the entire financial landscape of modern business. But to understand how they did it, we need to rewind. Back to when Apple was anything but perfect, when their future looked uncertain, and their quote-unquote simple idea was actually their last gamble. Believe it or not, Apple first started up in a small garage in 1976, founded by Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne in California. Their goal was simple: make computers personal and accessible. Their first product, the Apple I, had a price tag of about $666.66. They produced 200 units and sold roughly 175 units in their first year, with an estimated revenue of about $117,000. It was clear Apple was off to a good start. But in 1977, the Apple II was released and it was a hit, and believe me, I don't say this lightly. With a price tag ranging from $1,300 to $2,700 and an estimate revenue upwards of $10 billion spread across 5 to 6 million units sold over 16 years, it became one of the first successful mass-produced personal computers, launching Apple into the tech spotlight. And by 1984, Apple unveiled the Macintosh, a revolutionary computer with a graphical interface and mouse. But it was really expensive and hard to market. Internal tensions grew, leading to Steve Jobs being forced out in 1985. Now, without Jobs, Apple struggled. Throughout the late 80s and early 90s, the company was making poor product decisions, they were facing fierce competition from Bill Gates' Microsoft, and a lack of vision nearly drove the company to bankruptcy. In 1997, Apple asked Steve Jobs to return in hopes he could save them from financial collapse. After the return of Jobs, everything changed. He simplified Apple's product line, focused on simple designs and usability, and forged a critical partnership with Microsoft to stabilize finances. Then came innovation after innovation, like the iMac produced in 1998 with a sleek, colorful, and simplistic design, or the iPod in 2001 with its unique design and a function. And in 2007, Apple changed the world by producing arguably the best mobile phone in the world, the iPhone.
This is a revolutionary product that will change the way we communicate.
Then innovations like App Store, iPad, Apple Watch, and AirPods followed along. To the world, Apple has always looked simple. Clean designs, minimal ads, straightforward products. But that simplicity is the most expensive illusion in modern business. Because behind every curved edge and polished surface, Apple was constructing something far more complex. A quiet power shift. One that would make every customer dependent without ever realizing it. While other companies were chasing market share, Apple was quietly building something invisible. Something that didn't just compete, it captured. Every iPod, every Mac, every iPhone wasn't just a product, it was a doorway. But the real question is, a doorway to what? To answer that, we need to see how Apple redefined the idea of ownership itself, turning every purchase into a commitment. For years, Apple made its name selling beautiful products, the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone. each one a masterpiece of design and engineering, built to feel personal. But what no one noticed at first, was that Apple wasn't just selling devices, they were selling connections, invisible threads tying you closer to the brand with every purchase. The genius wasn't in the product, it was in what happened after you bought it. You'd plug in your iPod and suddenly you needed iTunes. You'd buy an iPhone and now only certain cables worked. Then came iCloud, AirDrop, Apple Music, each one seemingly harmless but together forming something far more powerful. A loop. A loop so seamless, so convenient that leaving became inconvenient. By the time the world realized what Apple was building, it was too late. Millions weren't just using Apple, they were living inside it. Competitors tried to copy the look, the ads, even the hardware. But they couldn't copy the one thing Apple truly owned: integration. Apple didn't ask customers to stay loyal. They made loyalty the path of least resistance. And yet, this wasn't the end game. The ecosystem was only the setup. The real play, the move that would make Apple a trillion-dollar machine, was still to come. Because once the ecosystem was in place, Apple stopped competing for sales and started controlling behavior. Once the ecosystem was complete, Apple's strategy shifted, quietly, surgically. They no longer needed to fight for your attention because they already owned your habits. Think about it. Apple doesn't chase you with ads the way others do. You chase them. Every year, millions line up for a phone that looks nearly identical to the one they already own, not because they need it, but because they've been conditioned to upgrade. That's not marketing, that's behavioral design. Apple turned consumer behavior into an asset. They realized something the rest of the industry ignored. The future of business wasn't in transactions, it was in dependence. Each device, each app, each service was another strand in a financial web. iCloud, Apple Care, Apple TV Plus, Apple Pay. Different names, same outcome. Each one made sure that no matter what you used or where you went, money kept flowing back to Cupertino, and the numbers proved it. In 2011, services made up a fraction of Apple's revenue. A decade later, that same segment was generating tens of billions annually. Passive, recurring, unstoppable. Apple had quietly built a system that printed money even when their sales slowed down. This wasn't luck. It was the logical end of their plan, to turn customers into a renewable resource. But the true genius, the secret behind Apple's trillion-dollar rise, wasn't just in how they earned money. It was in how they engineered trust. Because at the core of Apple's empire lies something no balance sheet can measure, an emotional monopoly. And that is where everything comes together. Here's the truth. Apple's greatest product was never the iPhone, the iPad, or even the Mac. It was trust. Not the kind built through slogans or advertising, but the kind that comes from design, reliability, and belonging. Apple understood something no spreadsheet could ever predict. People don't buy what's best. They buy what feels safe. Every curve, every sound, every detail of an Apple product is designed to create one emotion: comfort. That comfort becomes habit. That habit becomes dependence. And dependence becomes profit. It's not manipulation. It's mastery. Apple made loyalty invisible, and that's what makes it powerful. While competitors fought for your attention, Apple quietly built a world where you didn't want to leave. That's the trillion-dollar secret. Apple doesn't sell technology, they sell identity. And the moment you pick up an iPhone, open your MacBook, or sync your AirPods, you're not just using a device, you're joining a belief system. They don't compete in the market, they compete in your mind. Because when you control perception, you control everything. And that's how a company built from near bankruptcy became the most valuable in the world. But Apple isn't the only one who's mastered this playbook. Another company used a similar principle to rise from bankruptcy to billions and completely rewrite how we consume entertainment. You've probably heard of it. It's the one Blockbuster never saw coming. This is the business X-ray.